What's good, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over the photography merit badge, aka the easiest merit badge in Scouts. I didn't leave the room while doing the merit badge. In this video, we're going to be going over everything you need for this merit badge, every single requirement, and how you can do it from the comfort of your own home in just 30 minutes. I'm telling y'all, it's the easiest merit badge in all the Scouts. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so for the materials that you're going to need for this merit badge, you are going to need the merit badge workbook, and you're going to need a phone, and that's all you need. Just make sure that the phone has something that can crop and edit photos. The Photos app in iPhone works just fine. I don't know what app y'all got on Samsung, not even gonna lie, but I'm sure whatever Photos app they have on that will work just fine too. Just make sure you have something that can edit the photos. Okay, so the first requirement is going to be requirement 1A, which is just showing your merit badge counselor your cyber chip. Super duper easy. So for requirement 1B, I just put that some hazards you might encounter, tripping, you're not focused, you're too busy filming. The exposure to the sunlight, that's more of a hazard to your camera equipment itself. And just, any other hazards you might encounter while being outside, such as injuries, stuff like that. And I put for how you can prevent this is you gotta be aware. I know you're trying to get, that cool picture or whatever, but you need to be aware. Use like a hood for your lens to cover up the camera, to, protect it from the sunlight. In extreme weather, you have to appropriately dress and appropriately protect your camera. And yeah, that's it. Requirement 1B, not too hard either. So for requirement 2 is how elements can affect the quality of your picture. So for requirement A, I think natural light is very helpful for the quality of the camera. You want to take it, usually I would recommend in the morning or afternoon when the light is a little bit softer. Like the harsh light of noon and around that area is just a little bit too harsh for your pictures. You're going to be getting, really harsh shadows in your pictures. So I wouldn't take pictures at that time. And then low light, you're going to want to expose, so widen the lens so the lens can capture more light. You're also going to want to use like maybe artificial light, like a flash, or maybe bring your own light. Okay, so there are 3 main elements that control exposure, which is basically how much light can get to the film. It's the aperture, which widens the lens which through the light passes. So the wider, the more light. The smaller, the less light. The shutter speed. So you know how when a camera shutters, right, it's opening for a split second to take the picture, then closing. That is how fast it is going to, that is how long the shutter speed is, how long it's going to expose the picture. So like I was saying, in the dark environments, you might want to decrease the shutter speed so that way it's open for longer. And that way you can capture more light even in the dark environment, because the longer it is exposed, the more light gets into the camera. So ISO, it measures the sensitivity of the camera sensor. So a low ISO is going to be good for really well lit conditions, and then a high ISO is going to be good for really dark conditions, but it's going to add a lot of noise to your picture, which is why you really don't want to be taking pictures at night unless you have artificial lights. So for requirement D, composition, there are a lot of things that, a lot of elements in a photograph that can make it better. So you want to, a good tip is to divide the photograph into thirds, and then you want to place key elements at the intersections of those grid lines. Also placing like leading lines, so think railroads, bridges, fences. These lines will lead the viewer to the main part of the image. You also are going to want to use like depth. So nobody wants to look at a box, right? So you want to create a sense of depth. Objects that are further away should have less focus. So you want to be focusing the camera on maybe objects closer. So if I'm taking a picture of a bird, you don't want to have focus on the leaves, right? You want the bird to be at the center. And you maybe want to have branches, right, guiding the viewer towards the main image of the bird, and the leaves are just in the background, for example. All right, so for requirement E, the angle of view, it just is more of a psychological thing. So if you're taking a picture from a low angle, like getting maybe under the bird, it's gonna make it look more powerful, dominant, like it's above you. And if you're shooting a picture from a high angle, it's gonna, make it feel smaller, lesser. So it all depends on how you want the viewer to feel when you're taking that photo. Okay, so for requirement F is gonna be stop motion. So just imagine like your favorite athlete or like running at fast speeds. A really fast shutter speed is gonna allow you to capture the object, even though it's moving in high quality, by just increasing that shutter speed. So it can kind of freeze the fast moving objects in place. So if you want to, record something or take a picture of something that's moving, maybe increase that shutter speed. Therefore, the image won't be as blurry. Now, it's the exact opposite for slow motion. Slow motion, when you're taking a picture and you want it to look blurred, so maybe you want to give the illusion that they're running fast or that something's in motion, you can actually decrease the shutter speed to make the image a little bit more blurry. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just adds detail to the image to make the viewer perceive it as something. So definitely, if you want the image to look blurry and you don't know how to create that effect, definitely play around with the shutter speeds, make it a little bit slower. It will increase the blur on the image, especially for moving objects. For the last one, requirement G, it's just making sure you're capturing something in a decisive moment. So if I'm photographing maybe a lion, for an example, you're not gonna wanna take a picture of it when it's just grazing around. You're gonna wanna wait for it to attack prey, right? So you want action in the image. It's gonna make the viewer, it's more visually appealing to the viewer. All right, so requirement 3 is a lot easier than requirement 2. Requirement 2 might be the hardest thing about this mirror badge. So for requirement 3, it's just name the parts of a camera. So first of all, you have the body, right, which is just the plastic or sometimes metal casing around the camera. You have the lens, which light enters the camera and goes onto the film. You have the shutter, which I talked about a lot. It's basically, maybe like an 8-pronged circle that opens and closes that, exposes the camera and the lens to light and then shuts, and you can affect the speed, in the settings. Now, the aperture is something that's adjustable within the lens that controls the amount of light entering. So you can widen or make the aperture more narrow depending on how much light you want to be in. It's like when you widen your eyes to see more, or when you narrow them, because of the light, because you don't want so much light getting into your eyes. It's the same thing, just with the camera. And then film, or on digital cameras, the sensor is where the light goes after it's reflected through all the mirrors. So the light goes through the lens, gets reflected through the mirrors, and lands on the film, which records the actual image. So nothing would really be happening without the film. So all the requirements for number 4 are also super easy. It's just photograph something from 2 different angles, photograph something with 2 different light sources, photograph something with 2 different POVs, and photograph something with 2 different compositional techniques like I showed you before, like using lines, attract viewers' attention, having a foreground and a background, stuff like that. Really easy. So requirement 4 should take you maybe 30 seconds at most. So for requirement 5, there's a lot of stuff you could choose from, but I chose the easiest stuff that I think most people could do. I chose, a nature shot. So all you have to do is just take a picture of some trees. I chose a picture of a person, posed. And then I think I chose an action shot. So those were my 3, but there's a lot you can pick. I'll put all the requirements on screen just so you know which ones you can pick from. But I think those are the easiest ones since you don't have to beg other people to be in your photo. Okay, so this one's really easy. So you're gonna wanna open up your photo app, select your photo, go over to the crop icon, crop it to, whatever you want. For whatever reason, I didn't like the first one, so I like changed it, you know, did it a different way. But you can do it however you want. Just crop your photo, or you could adjust it exposure. Like mess with all the saturation and color settings, or show another way you can, improve or change your photo. So basically, any of the settings down there you could use, but it doesn't really matter. I think cropping the photo is the easiest one. Requirement 7. You're gonna use images other than the ones you've used previously to, tell a story. So you're gonna want to plan your story and plan what photographs you're gonna take. You're gonna want to talk to your counselor about it, and then select 8 to 12 images to tell your story. So the images I chose, I'll put them up. They're just me caving, like I think like a year ago. I just found some pictures on my phone that told kind of a story. What I would do if you don't have just 8 pictures laying around, just walk around your house and take, a couple different pictures. You upstairs, you walking down the stairs, you on the main floor, you walking through the main floor, you walking down the stairs, you going to the basement. So requirement 8 is identify 3 career opportunities, and then you have to describe the education that you would need for those. You're also going to want to explain your interest in those careers. So I just chose 3 basic ones, like photographer, journalist, and then maybe a videographer. And then the education you might need for is maybe a film degree or a YouTube tutorial. It's not that hard to just pick up a camera. And then why the career interests you, I don't know why it would interest you. Just if it doesn't, just make something up, but that shouldn't be too hard. And once you've done that, just get your blue card signed and you're done with the merit badge. It was that easy. I'm 100% sure all of y'all can do that in 30 minutes. It was actually super, super easy getting this merit badge done. It was super fun. And I made it a challenge for myself while doing this to not leave my room. So I did keep my promise. Like, I didn't leave my room while I was doing it. I took the photos outside my room, but I didn't leave the room while doing the merit badge. So I think that counts. And yeah, that's the end of the video. I'll see y'all next time.